on. I gotta get the headset turned on. Unmute. Now that I have muted audio, oops, I got one more I gotta do. Okay, is this thing gonna start going or not? Now I'm gonna do an audio check. Okay, all right, there we go. And then I gotta get back to live. On both of those monitoring screens, drop frames showing 0. Before starting this stream, I had to end the stream that was already running. I started a stream at 9 o'clock, an unlisted stream, so none of you got notices about it, just to see if I could capture dropped frames and see whether there was a problem or not at 9 a.m. And there was not. It ran for 28, 29 minutes with no dropped frames. So that's a good thing. Now this is kind of a weird thing. I've got 2 chat windows open. How did I do that? Ay, caramba. All right. Here we go. Hello to everybody in chat. I'm not going to read through all of these. This is the right chat, isn't it? Voice and audio are way out of sync here. Audio out of sync. Is it still out of sync? Let's go back and check somewhere. Where do I check that? I check that here. So if I come back and put myself on screen, and then see here's I'm screen, and then see here. I guess I don't know if I can do that. How am I going to see whether it's in sync or not? Oh, I know. I have to mute my microphone when I go to show myself on screen. Is that going to work? Let's try that. Is that going to work? Let's try that. Is that going to work? Let's try that. I think that looked all right. Is the sync okay now? Let's see. Maybe try a refresh. Working fine. Al J says it's working fine. Looks synced over here from Ran Israel. Do a refresh. It'll sync up. Okay, so I think that's going to be okay. All right. Let's see. There was a joke in here. It was from Nick. Fewer and fewer people these days are buying into religion. Profits are down. And then I'm going to bring up another tab over here. I think we're going to get a few jokes off to start with here. This is the chat notes that I have from Thursday, that I saved from Thursday, because I wasn't able to do the show on Thursday or Friday or Saturday, right? No, I did do Saturday, but there was, okay, anyway, these are the Windows Daily notes from Thursday. Nick Poverman, a burglar stole all of my lamps. I should be upset, but I'm just delighted. And Martin Thog, thanks for the channel. How do elephants stop sinking in the sand? They wear sandals. Why do ostriches bury their head in the sand? They are looking for elephants not wearing sandals. From Al Neo, this one was, I don't think it was a joke. There's a way to, when you can go to Windows Advanced Recovery Screen, get access to Explorer or Command Prompt and use that to reset a password. However, the computer that we were talking about in that instance, which we will get to, I think it was Martin Hoggs, he couldn't get logged in at all. So you can't do Advanced Windows Recovery Screen unless you can get into Windows. However, if you get into Windows Repair, you could boot from Windows Bootable Media and go into the repair your Windows, something like that, and get to a command prompt and do a password reset there would be perhaps the way to do it. However, he was working with a Microsoft account in that case. I don't think that method will work on a Microsoft account, but he did successfully get it by resetting the password on the Microsoft account. But thank you, Al Neo, for chiming in with that. Then Dennis, if you have a Samsung SSD, you should update the firmware on drives that have a problem that's been in the news recently. And I did go look at that, and that was a 980 Pro, I think it was, and there was a specific symptom, and I don't have any of those drives. I don't think I've ever sold one of those. And then from Ran Israel, the GUI method for auto logon, run control user passwords too without the quotes and uncheck the box and click apply. So I took a look at that and I did not find that. So Ran, if you see this and can give me some clarification, I'm going to do control C there and then Windows key R, and then Control V to paste that without the quotes, and that just brings up this user account screen, which I've seen this many times. But then he says uncheck the checkbox and click apply, and I think maybe what he was referring to here is over here on, I think it's advanced, require users to press Control Alt Delete, and that's a different thing entirely. That's not going to be an auto log on. That would be when you come up, when you start the computer up, if you don't want users to have to press Control Alt Delete to get the login prompt, then you can not select this. But if you have this selected, that means in order to put in the password when you're logging into Windows, you'll have to press Control Alt Delete. You can't just move the mouse, you can't just press the Enter key. And the purpose for that is to prevent people from connecting remotely to your computer and logging into it, and that would be particularly if you have the remote connections allowed, so that somebody could use the MSTSC or whatever the other name is for that to be able to connect remotely to a computer. Oh, that's weird, you can't see the top of my head. All right, oh, now my head's too low. So sensitive. Doug, you're so picky. Oh, here's Jeff. Oh, this is the link about those Samsung drives. So I'll go to that and have a quick look at that. Are you sure you want to leave YouTube? Yes, I want to leave YouTube. Samsung's Magician 7 software supporting Samsung internal drives. Oh, this was for showing the purpose of Magician, and because I was saying I don't really see a need to use it. About the only thing I'd be interested in here is maybe doing an initial update for a NVMe drive or a Samsung SSD if it needs that. But I didn't find anything in here that would make sense for me to have on my clients' computers, end users' computers. I'm still seeing this as for a technically competent or aware person. Then let's see, did I get everything that's on here? Yes, I did. And then the next thing I want to get to is Martin Hogg's email that he sent to me, which has in part a repeat of the joke that we just read, elephants wearing sandals and ostriches sticking their heads. But he also said in here regarding the profile question yesterday, this is when he was asking about creating a new user profile. Will the touchscreen settings come over? I believe that's what this was in reference to. And what he said is, regarding the profile question yesterday, I'm cloning the hard disk drive to a new SSD before I remove the old profile. Then the customer will have the old hard disk drive as a backup. So that really didn't have to do with whether the touchscreen settings would transfer over, but he just gave us extra information about that issue. Now, what do I need to go to next? It seems, yeah, there's something else I want to get to here. Find where that is. Is that on my Windows daily list? No, not there. Somebody had an, oh, I know what it was. It was back here on the emails that I have flagged for today from Brian. And I am letting intentionally letting Brian's email address display because he's actually has a website of his family content, and so I'm figuring, hey, they're trying to make that public anyway. A few paragraphs there, text. I'm not going to read through all of it, but basically what he's getting to here, which is interesting, is for uninstalling the phone app, the Windows Phone app. Delete that. And this was interesting and useful. It's for running PowerShell as administrator to uninstall apps that you can't uninstall through the native methods. Let's see what he said somewhere in here. Oh, grayed out right here. The option to uninstall was grayed out. Now he also tells in these paragraphs that he was curious, what is this your phone that keeps being hammered towards him? And he went and looked at it and found it was just real nothing burger. He couldn't make phone calls with it. The only thing he could seem to do is to get access to photos that were on the phone. But anyway, PowerShell as administrator. First command is not really necessary if you know the name of the app package, and it's this command right here. So I'm going to highlight that, Control C, and then I'll right click on the Windows button and go to PowerShell admin. and then get into PowerShell here and Control V to paste that. Let's see, select name, package, full name. This displays all the package names, and then you look through that list for the one that you're interested in, and in that list is this Your Phone app is somewhere in there. I'm not going to try to show it to you, but then when you find it, you use this command with the name of the app that you're trying to uninstall. And so I'll go paste that and just show how that it would uninstall that app. Now I haven't actually tested this yet on my, deployment operation progress. Your phone initialized. Deployment operation progress. Your phone initialized. Is that doing it? I had not actually tested doing this yet, but I'm intrigued with this, and I'm thinking I'd like to make a video especially about that, and put that in my, publish that on my channel. So you'll probably be seeing more details of that coming up in the future. I do have the redirect set to go to Ken Stout's premiere when I'm finished here. Oh, by the way, cute story. 10-15 minutes before 9 o'clock, I started getting ready to start my 9 a.m. stream. I almost started today's stream at 9 a.m. For those of you who don't know, I delayed it till 9:30 Pacific time because on Thursday and Friday and Saturday at 9 a.m. the upload speed was horrible from here. Same exact time. So Thursday and Friday Windows Dailies did not go, did not fly, did not work. Saturday's stream was for 11 a.m., so it was okay, but I checked at 9 a.m. and it was bad. And I was interacting with people in the chat room, letting them know that in case it still had trouble. But every time I've been having these problems, and if you go back in history and look at other dates, when I had streaming problems, it was all right close to 9 a.m. That seems to be a thing or an issue. Now, I'm going to come back to chat in a moment, but I also need to get to these comments on my videos. From Zavi Manor, Windows Daily Broadcast, one day yes, one day no, today no. And he was referring to, I think that was Friday. And then this comment says, I don't know what happened, Doug, but it didn't work. And I think Al Neo here didn't get my joke. I'm sure Ken Stout got my joke because this is his kind of humor. Live stream demonstration of the YouTube buffering symbol. If you go look at that video, all you get is the arrow circling round and round because stream that day did not work at all. Tom K regarding the Saturday show. Oh, this is when I was having trouble with my mouse. He says, try feeding your mouse some cheese. And the reason why I kept that one on here to respond to is to let you know that I'm still using the mouse wireless, not connected to that USB wire. On Saturday, it was connected. I've been using it for quite a while with the mouse connected to the wire because I thought that would be better, be more stable. Apparently, there's something wrong in the wire, and the movement on the wire was causing the mouse to catch, to hesitate, to freeze in a place. But without it connected, that doesn't happen anymore. Somebody on Saturday suggested that I try going wireless with it, and that worked. So I will give thumbs up and hearts to all of these comments and then go interact with chat. I've got 15 minutes left on today's show, and I've got through all of my stuff. So here's this out of sync stuff. How far behind am I? That's all scrolled all the way to the bottom. Is your mark level set? Volume is really low. Oh, is it? Let me check. Looking. Yeah, I'm not bumping into the yellow at all. So let me turn this volume up and see. That is just barely bumping into the yellow. If I go all the way up, actually that looks kind of okay. All the way at the top in XSplit. I turn the microphone around. I have the gain set to where I like it to be. So let me know in chat if that was an improvement on my audio. See, I don't notice a lot of audio issues, things in chat. It's a bit better. That would be the refresh, the sync. Shame on me, I had two windows open, CFWW. Sometimes Rick has had that happen to me where the sync just doesn't seem to be dead on. Oh, I saw some of Ken Stout show last night, and he was having an issue where on his screen, his playback of his live stream was far behind. And I find sometimes I need to hit the live button because sometimes you're watching in DVR mode and don't realize it, don't expect it. So like here, if I come onto my video and if this red is not showing for live, Ken, just click on that so that you're live, because maybe you're not seeing the live. Well, you're not caught up with your show. You're watching in DVR mode. Let's see. Brian says I'm late. Thanks YouTube for no notifications. I'm sure YouTube would say you're welcome. Yeah. The checkbox is missing. Oh, the checkbox that I was being told about for that auto logon is missing. Now, I don't know why. This is Windows 10 Pro. I would think that might not be available on home, but this is Windows 10 Pro. So I don't know what makes that checkbox missing. Maybe it's only in a environment where you have a maybe it's because I have a Microsoft account. I think this computer is signing in with a Microsoft account. That might prevent that. That would seem to make sense. Yeah, see, this is signing in with a Microsoft account. That might be why I don't have that box. It's exactly what I was talking about, the boot media method you mentioned. Oh, yes, Al. Okay. Yeah, booting from the Windows 10 bootable media, getting into the repair console, then using that command prompt to run those commands for resetting a password. And again, I don't think it would work with a Microsoft account password. Need to change the registry setting to get it back, to get that check mark back. Maybe that's what it is. I've noticed that between those two, what Wintermute said from Ran, and that would be about the registry setting, or that the checkbox was missing. Probably both of those. Here's Wintermute maybe giving me the place for that registry setting. Must enter username and password, checkbox missing from NetPleaseWin. NetPleaseWiz. Oh, Wiz, not Win. NetPlace. I don't know what that is. Windows 10, you can manage whether users need to enter proper credentials to access the system. Let's use the username and password. So I'll try doing that registry fix. And is it going to involve a reboot, regedit, sensitive location? Go to this location, right hand. Well, I don't want to log out while I'm streaming. I guess I could do that on Baby Beast. I haven't even looked to see if that option is there in Baby Beast. Well, that sounds like a decent thing to give a special video for about too. I should be doing more special videos in order to attract more audience, because those short videos on a specific topic that people might be searching for, those tend to bring in, well, new views for sure, but some of those new views will turn into be regular viewers. Also, some Samsung will have a firmware update for 990 Pro drives shortly. You can use this dialog box to reset the passwords. Use this dialog box. Okay, maybe that'll show up later. To understand more about that, I'm going to have to catch that one later. That was from a client. Then Jeff, Samsung Magician checks for firmware updates automatically. I don't want my end users being prompted for a firmware update. Firmware updates are after you get the first, when you first install a piece of hardware, do a firmware update then. But when it goes out to the end user, the firmware updates that come after that are highly unlikely to be needed for that end user. And when they get prompts coming up about updates, they'll click away from it, they'll excessively call me, and I'm not worried about missing subsequent firmware updates, because they are typically for a very small percentage of the population out there, or very specific circumstances where a problem happens. Now, if I become aware of something that I think is important for me to go out and find those users, then I might go do that, but I've never seen that. The only time I've seen something that goes wrong with a piece of software that I then go out and pursue that among my clients is at one point where, let's see, McAfee had a problem going on that was causing a massive problems for people worldwide, which is another reason why I try to stay away from third-party products. But it's my understanding that you need the Magician software from Samsung to do firmware updates. Well, it checks for firmware updates for you, but is that the only way to do a firmware update? But you can always install it, do a firmware update, and then uninstall it so that it's not causing a nuisance to the end user who are not technically aware of what's going on. Let's see. Then I got new Western Digital Drive, seems to work under the same principle. Man, I don't know that I've ever specifically gone to do a firmware update for an SSD or an NVMe. Some of you can be upset at me about that, but I've never had a problem come back to me in regards to it. Yeah. You might wind up persuading me otherwise, but yeah, I haven't been doing it and I haven't seen any trouble as a result of it. You've seen a mention of upcoming firmware releases on multiple podcasts. 990 Pros will degrade life by 6% every 2 weeks, apparently. The firmware fixes that. On that, let's see. Yes, I do. Now, Kerry Holzman, way of approaching that. Well, I don't know if I can put words into his mouth. Probably not. But I would think, keeping in line with some of his other criticisms about the design of something, is that was a serious design flaw that I haven't heard any other drive manufacturers coming up with. Wouldn't that be a reason to steer clear of Samsung's? Well, I'm not saying that you should, but yeah, that's like a major bad. I have been in PowerShell to remove apps. Guess what? Apparently you can get specific update to put on an ISO to do a firmware update without the Magician software, but I'm telling you it's just much easier to use the Magician software. Oh, I think so. I'm with you on that. But that we have to do that, that's a ding against their devices in my mind. Martin says, yes, Doug, the touchscreen settings transferred to the new profile. Okay, all good. Oh, that's awesome. So transfer to the new profile. So that means when you created a new profile. Okay, so that would mean the touchscreen settings were computer settings, not user settings, which totally makes sense. It should be a computer setting rather than a user setting. Did I miss mentioning that when we talked about that previously? Because a setting that's related to the hardware, like if you install a printer driver under a certain username, create a new user, that new user is going to have access to that printer. You don't have to reinstall the printer driver. So hardware drivers, hardware settings would typically be a computer setting, and it would automatically be inherited by a new user account. Magician software. Suppose you don't really need Magician anyway. Samsung provides bootable CD, DVD, ISO images for the sole purpose of updating their SSD software. That does sound like it'd be more of a nuisance. I've used one of these to burn a CD-RW, not RAW. And guess who always took the easy route? The phone app also allows you to read and respond to phone notifications and messages from your PC. Notifications. How about text messages? Text messages would be useful to be able to respond to on the computer. But text messages is not necessarily notifications. You might get notifications regarding a text message coming in, but you don't actually respond to the notification. You have to get into the text messaging app to respond. I've not had any side effects by using the Magician software. Also has some other useful tools like checking the drive in which it came in handy in my case. Well, the side effect that I'm concerned about is an extra thing sitting on my client's computer. Does it ever pop up with a message? If it ever pops up with a message, such as a firmware update, then my end user has to do something about that. They either click away from it to ignore it, or they call me, and I just don't see that the firmware updates, except for this one that degrades the drives, are important enough to be bothering them with it. Okay, we dealt with the volume already. Specific topic videos, good idea. Would help to have many people having specific issues. Yep. By the way, Greg M, that's chit chat, crazy speed. Instead, I'm going to skip through a little bit here because I'm getting close to the end. Yeah, Samsung always have higher, even though they are SSDs with specs equal to or better. Kind of trying to scan through these. Generally speaking, I'm going to choose a drive for specs, and if I find another drive that's generally equivalent in the specs I'm looking for and it's cheaper and it's quality, that's the way to go. Yes, the PC can respond to text messages too. Okay, great. Also interact with other apps on the phone. I don't get enough of that to care about it, but I have in the past had an interest in being able to interact with an app that's on my phone through the computer because it's easier to type on the computer. Do I have any of those that I really care about? Typically, when I get a text message that I have on the phone, I use the voice dictation on the phone. It's a little bit of a nuisance to have to go back and correct something that gets wrong. Would I go to my computer to do that text message? It doesn't seem likely. You can disable the Samsung Magician from running a start. There's an idea. That might be more palatable for me, to install the Magician software and then disable it from running on startup. That way, if I become aware that there's an update needed, I could just connect remotely and just manually launch the Magician software and check to see if that computer needs that update. Now, isn't it the case that not all Samsung drives work with Magician? Is it only the NVMe or the M.2s? Do their SSDs not use Magician? It seems to me there was some drive that when you try to install Magician, it didn't work on a Samsung drive. That's an excellent reason for not installing Magician software. I'll definitely remember it. Seldom use it a lot. Maybe an Android thing. I'm not sure whether he's referring to the phone or the Magician. Yes, Android integrates best with Samsung phones. Sounds like a smart move. Just another reason not to care. I have an iPhone. I have an iPhone too. So actually, I can't use that Your Phone app, right? You only need Magician software to update a drive BIOS. Everything else is optional. I have SATA SSD that uses Magician, Samsung Magician for SATA and NVMe's. Yep, found the OEM enterprise. Samsungs don't work with Magician. The popular consumer ones work. Firmware, not BIOS. Yeah, firmware on the drives, not the computer BIOS. The computer BIOS we refer to as firmware for the computer. That would be okay, but on the Samsung drives, that firmware is not the same thing as BIOS. Okay, so that's it. End of my time. I'm going to send you off to Ken Stout's Premiere. And there's my email address. You can send me a question by email. You can put questions into any comments on any of my videos. You can put comments into chat. And I hope that was useful. Have a great day. Catch you later. Goodbye. Oh, 0 drop frames, by the way.